Good evening and welcome to tonight's driver's ed class. We'll wait for people to sign in as you normally will. Trying to turn on my other camera. There we go. Now I'm in business. Okay. So hopefully everybody had a good Memorial Day weekend. Everybody's rested and ready to finish up the last few weeks here of driver's ed. So wow, everybody pops in. There we got a good amount of people, about half. So we'll wait for the other half to jump on in. It's kind of a crazy day for me in that I loaded the wrong lesson for tonight. So we are going to switch things up. I'm throwing you a curveball. So I know that everybody probably was ready for either driving emergencies or driving in hazardous conditions. But I am going to mix it up and skip ahead to alcohol and drugs tonight. So that is what the topic of discussion will be. I think just after having Memorial Day weekend, it's probably a pretty good topic to discuss and to kind of go over. The state manual doesn't really do, I think, justice on the material. I think in the textbook in responsible driving, so I want you to read that tonight and do the questions. That's going to be chapter 18. So we're going to kind of take today and tomorrow and focus on alcohol and drugs. Today will be on the emotional and physical aspects of being under the influence of alcohol or drugs. And tomorrow's class, or at least most of it, will be on the penalties of drinking and driving and being under the influence of drugs in New Hampshire, what to expect for license revocation, suspension. We'll talk about some of the laws. And part of your homework will be looking at what we have in the state manual and you coming up with your own take on how to change people's behavior on drinking and driving. So we're going to wait for a few more people to pop on in. So remember, please sign in on your phone. I believe the only drive time that I have hold on, I got to text somebody. Can't believe someone can't find me. So I got to just text this person here for a second. Now, you aren't going to have problems with the homework or with what you need to do. It's on the sheet of paper that I gave you. I cannot believe we're in the fourth week of class, and I've actually got someone texting me that they can't find where class is. This is kind of ridiculous. Okay. We are down to the last couple weeks. Availability of driving is going to be a little bit more difficult to get people scheduled. Like I said, the only day I'm going to schedule is tomorrow. I do have a 5 o'clock open, and Dasha, I think tomorrow is going to be our normal scheduled time, but I'll text you at the end of class to confirm to make sure that everything's okay. I'm looking at the list of people here. If you have free time during the day, that is where you want to grab time. If you expect to grab time between 3 and 5, people have already signed up for most of the week. There aren't a lot of openings. The next time that you could probably drive would be Friday afternoon or all day Saturday. So if you've got 4 or 5 hours in and you need 6, we're not going to be done by the end of class. It's just not going to happen. But we can get as close as we possibly can. But if you can drive during free studies, during lunches, before school, if there's a period, I thought there was a day like today, I thought before a period where you could actually drive. Take advantage of anything that you have free and available and you're at school, so that way you don't have to be dropped off. But that's enough of me preaching. And we've got just about a full class. I think we're only missing 1 or 2. So that is awesome. All right, so we're going to do some activities tonight, a little bit different than what we normally do. So you're going to have to participate online or on YouTube. So some of the questions I do not want you to answer on YouTube. I want you to just to do on your phone. So this first one that I want you to do, let me get right to the, so let's get right into the PowerPoint. Okay, alcohol and drugs and driving. What should I know and why? Let's start with the obvious. You are in driver's ed because you cannot receive a New Hampshire driver's license until the age of 16. If you want a driver's license before the age of 18, driver's ed has to be complete. So a lot of you will be getting your license pretty darn close to your 16th birthday. Now we know legal limit or the legal age to consume alcohol in all 50 states is 21. So let me get out of here for a second. So we have these two worlds. You've got your 16 learning to drive world, and then you've got drinking world where you're going to be legal to consume alcohol. These two worlds are separated by 5 years. In no way should they ever converge and come together in the next 5 years. All right? That's the way it's supposed to work. That's the way it's on the books. But we all know that's not reality. We all know that if you're in high school, studies have shown that most kids at the age of 13 or 14 have at least tried alcohol. I'm not saying that they've consumed a full, like a serving of alcohol, a can of beer or, a bottle of whiskey or a bottle of wine. We're talking that they've actually introduced alcohol into the system. They've tried it. So that's a pretty young age. So for some of you, and we've got a good, fair representation, male, female. I'm betting out of there's 22 in class. There's a few of you have already left tonight. I see that. I'm going to say at least half of you have tried alcohol. And I'm not asking you to put it up here on YouTube or on your phone. But if studies do show what they normally show, is that at least half of you do have some experience on this topic. Now, the problem is that once you get your license and you have that freedom to get away from your parents, when you get to be 18, 19, you're going to be graduated from high school and off to college. We know living in a college town that there is a lot of drinking going on. So you're still not 21, but you're being introduced to an atmosphere where it is almost accepted to do what's illegal. Okay. And we know that unless you're falling down drunk in downtown, they're probably going to let you be in the dorm or, in the back of a frat house or whatever, and they're going to leave you alone. It doesn't do you any good because most people, and here's where the problem's going to lie, you're going to get good at driving and you're going to think, I can drink a little and I'm going to be okay. And you start justifying your actions, even though if someone was to give you a test, like what we're going to probably do here in driver's ed, about when you should be behind the wheel with alcohol in your system. We know it's 21, but you're going to start justifying why you've got to get home. You've got to get to work. Even though you've done something you probably shouldn't do, I'm not that bad. And that's the problem that we have with alcohol. And even when you get to be of legal age, most people start to justify, let's just say you're in your 40s or 50s. Adults do the same thing. I've only had 3. I've only had 4. I'm not that bad. I can drive home. That's where you're going to have your problems. That's where you're going to have your problems. And we're going to take a look at alcohol and what it does to your body, what it does to your mind. We'll take a look at marijuana a little bit. We really won't get into all the different types of drugs, but we're going to probably focus just on alcohol and marijuana. Now, what I'd like you to do right now is I would like you to get a piece of paper, and I want you to draw a line down the middle of the paper. And on one side, I want you to write why not, why you think people don't drink. We're not talking about driving and drinking. We're just talking about consuming alcohol. Why do people drink alcohol? On the other side, I want you to write down why people drink. So why not and why? So I want you to make a list. I want you to come up with at least 3 reasons why you think people don't drink and why you think people do drink. And I'm just going to play a little bit of background music here just to give you a little bit of time to do this. And I want you to text me your responses so I get to see who is still here with us right now. Right now it says there are 18. So I want to find out who are the 18 that signed in and who still is here. See my little granddaughter? That's my granddaughter. So I'm going to give you about 3 minutes. So text me in 3 why nots, 3 whys people drink alcohol. And let's put a little timer up here so we know. Okay, we're down to the last few seconds. I see people are texting into me, so that's a good thing. So we'll just wait just a few more seconds for people to text in. All right. I got a fair amount of people responding, which is good. All right, so let's get out of the timer and let's go through some of the answers that people logged in. Why not? Peer pressure seems to be a reoccurring response, which is good. Parents, getting in trouble, um, bad for your liver, for your health, um, dangerous if it's too much consumed. It's illegal to drink and drive, which is good. Um, Health effects, don't do it because you're underage, that you lose control. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, some people put it on a document, so I'm not able to download it right off. Let's see. Can be fun is why. It makes you seem cooler, so peer pressure would be why too. Um, Stress. Some people put down taste. Some people put down to fit in, to party. Okay. These are all good reasons why people do things and why they don't. So I'm going to kind of leave this here. Okay. What I want you to write down in your notes, and I think you probably, in a way, know this, but we're going to kind of bring a little bit of light to it. Everything that you do in life, okay, from something as simple of where you're going to choose to go out to eat Friday night, to the type of car that you're going to drive, to the clothes that you wear, to where you're going to live. There are reasons behind everything that you do. Drinking and doing drugs is no different. If it did not cause you to think that it was giving you something of benefit, you probably wouldn't do it, right? Think about it. Doing something that we know is wrong, there has to be some type of a benefit that we feel is greater than what we know what the consequences are. So what I want you to write down in your notes, that any benefit from alcohol or drugs is short-term lived. All right? Think about it. You consume alcohol, take a hit from a joint, take some pills, whatever. It's only for the moment. It's only for that hour. It's for that evening. By the morning, everything is going to probably be back to normal as long as you don't overindulge. Then it could be maybe a day till you get back to normal. So, in order to have that feeling again, you have to reintroduce that alcohol or that drug into your body to get that same desire, that same effect. And this is where addiction happens, is that people start out thinking, I'm only going to do it socially. I want to have some fun. I want to fit in. And they start to feel the effects of the alcohol or the drugs, and they like the experience. So it reinforces it to do it again. If you had a negative experience, let's just do something so simplistic that that it probably doesn't make any sense. But if you, something as simple as touching something that is very warm, and as a young kid they would say, don't touch a stove because it's hot, you're going to get burnt. All it takes is one time to get your fingers burnt and get blisters, and you're not touching the top of the stove anymore. But it's surprising how many people like to just maybe get real close to it, like maybe at a campfire because of heat. Do the same thing to your fingers. You get really close and you start to feel it, and then you pull away. Next time you get a little bit closer, you know. But after a while, if it gives you a negative feeling, it does something really bad, you learn your lesson right from the get-go and you don't do it again. And a lot of people with drugs and alcohol, this is why they never go towards it, is because they know the consequences, or if they did at least try to experiment, it wasn't a good feeling, it wasn't a good experience, and they never go back to it again. Now, there are four classes of people when it comes to alcohol and drugs. So I want you to write this down. Everybody starts off in life as a non-user, okay? everybody starts out as a child, as an infant. We get older. We go through elementary school, then junior high, then high school. But at some point in our life, we get introduced to some of these negative aspects. Drinking and drugs would be such a case. So we all start out as non-users. Then some of us go to the next group, which is social users, where we just experiment. We just want to see what it's really like. Is it really that bad? Does it give me any benefit? So those are social people. Now, some people still drink alcohol, smoke marijuana, do other types of drugs because they do it occasionally and they feel like it doesn't control their life. So they're very much in the social aspect of this illegal substance, okay? Then the next group of people are people that do it to a degree where it creates problems. People that do too much alcohol, too much pot, too much pills, too much cocaine, too much heroin, and it starts to affect their life on almost a daily, weekly basis. Okay, that's a problem. So my definition of someone who does alcohol or any type of drug, that if you've got problems in your life that are attributed to that use, you probably need help. You're a problem user. Could be a drinker, could be a drug user. And then, of course, the furthest person on the spectrum is someone who is addicted to alcohol or drugs, and that's the addict. And so what I wanted to show you, that it's a progression. So you start out life as a non-user, you introduce the substance, whatever it is, you become social with it, and you're trying to get more of that beneficial experience from that drug or alcohol, and it leads you into the problem area. Now, some people, once they start getting problems, being arrested, getting kicked out of school, getting into arguments, maybe getting divorces, depending on what stage in life that you're in, they leave the problem area and they go back to the social aspect of it, or they become a non-user. There are a lot of people, and we think of the recovery group, Alcohol Anonymous, or NA, Narcotics Anonymous, where people have got to such a bad point in their life that they never go back to drugs and they just stop using. So I just wanted to kind of put things in perspective of that you're right at that area in your life where you're going to be teetering between being a licensed driver and almost to that legal age for when alcohol is the most probably consumed illegal drug for under 21. Once you get 21, it's not illegal anymore. But what I'm saying is it's most accessible, drug to you. So you've got to be very, very careful in the next 5 years, because you're experimenting or thinking that it's not that bad. You're going to kind of get into the areas where you're going to probably run into some trouble and have problems with the law. So I want to kind of start off with talking about why people do it and why they don't. Remember, if something doesn't give you any benefit, you probably won't do it. There has to be some reason why it's pulling you to do it. So let's talk about the first time. And I like this little blurb. So let me show you this commercial that they did.
Have a shot.
Here, drink some of this.
Have a shot.
First time you do it, you put yourself at risk because it takes a toll.
I drink to experiment and also to relieve stress.
There's always a reason to do it. I'm stressed. I don't like my parents.
Yeah. It goes from school, like, that's what you see, what you do.
You just want to fit in and you just want to try that out. Why is everybody else doing it? There must be something, great about it.
I was 14 years old when I tried weed with my friends.
She had done it before I did, and she showed me and she said it was okay to do it, and she liked it. I tried it.
It was just a new feeling that I needed to explore further.
I started thinking if I only drank on the weekends, I wouldn't get addicted to drinking.
But I don't think I'll get addicted or to any type of drug.
In the beginning, I felt like I was controlling it, but after that, it got out of control. Like, as I said before, I was high for 6 months.
It was every day. I'd be back there in the alley smoking weed with everybody else.
I drank so much that I started throwing up my stomach, man.
My health deteriorated. I've lost homes. I've never been able to hold a job. I've lived on the streets.
I ended up losing my scholarship in college.
Everything I wanted to be just went down the drain.
I could justify using in order to enjoy myself and other things.
I just felt like I was dying.
They opened the door for us and she was dead on the bed with a needle in her arm.
Gave a shot of adrenaline to his heart, it flatlined and killed him right there.
But when it's all over, only person that's paying the price is you.
It is a fact that you will always remember the first time that you drank alcohol. It's funny how sometimes you'll hear a song on the radio and your mind can go back to a time, maybe elementary school or junior high, who you were with, what you were doing. Maybe you were downtown and, you're fooling around, skateboarding or something like that. Alcohol is the same type of thing, is that if someone said, okay, when was the first time, you think, oh, yeah, I remember. We were at a friend's house. We were out in the woods. We were camping during the summer. A friend of mine was able to get into his dad's refrigerator out in the garage, and we brought a couple beers out into the tent. And you remember that first time. The problem, like we said before, when you get to experimenting, it may lead to the next time. And the next time could be more than just one. It could be two. And before you know it, that's when you're getting into that habit of always seeking that thrill of getting that buzz, getting that benefit from that drug that it gives you for a short period of time. So what I want you to write down your notes, and if you've ever taken Q's health class, a lot of this, what we're going to talk about in the next half hour, is probably a lot that you've already had in high school. But I just wanted to make sure, and the state wants to make sure that you have a basic understanding of alcohol and drugs, how they affect your body mentally and physically. So hopefully you won't ever choose to get behind the wheel and drive. So what I want you to think about here is write down that alcohol is a drug. We know it is a depressant. It slows down the central nervous system. So just write down alcohol is a depressant. It kind of gives you a buzz at the beginning. You may feel a little bit of euphoria at the beginning of drinking, and you go, I don't feel slower or sluggish. That's usually after your fourth or fifth. So you're a little bit into your drinking. But your first one, your second one, you're still okay. You're probably a little chatty, feeling pretty good, feeling a little bit of a buzz. The other thing about alcohol is that once you really get into heavy usage of drinking, and this is probably more a person that's a problem drinker or an alcoholic, you got to introduce food into your body. If you think alcohol is going to sustain you, it can't. It has no vitamins, proteins, minerals. It has nothing to help maintain your body. So there is no, and a lot of people used to debate, well, drinking wine is good for your heart. Yeah, but so is an exercise. You're not exercising, so drinking wine to get a better heart, you're missing the boat. The study, and look at the whole study, the study with wine basically deals with people over in Scandinavian countries, and basically they were grown up with wine at dinner, and they found it to be used in moderation, and people that had healthy diets and drinking wine had better hearts. So that's a whole nother thing. But let's take a look at alcohol as it goes through your body. And I don't want to go through all of this stuff, but I do want to kind of highlight a few things that maybe you've never thought of before. That the minute you introduce alcohol into your body, and you're doing it through your mouth, so your mouth and your tongue, that it does get absorbed. It does start taking in some of the alcohol is absorbed there, and so isn't the odor of alcohol. And if you've ever been around somebody that is a drinker, and you're not, let's say you're not a drinker, but somebody else is, you get within like 2 or 3 feet in the summertime, you can smell alcohol, not only on their breath, but on their perspiration. If you've ever gone to sporting events and where there's heavy drinking going on, you can smell alcohol around. The funny thing is, when you're drinking or smoking cigarettes or pot, you don't really smell the odor on you. So this is where people think, oh, I'm going to put one over on my teacher. They probably know what's going on. they probably know that you've been drinking or doing other things. Once alcohol gets into your system and through the stomach, a small part does go into the bloodstream at that point, but it's not till it moves past the pyloric valve. I want you to write that down in your notes, because that's important for you to understand, is that when you consume too much alcohol and you need medical help, they're going to have to pump your stomach. They cannot pump your small intestines. So we want to keep alcohol in your stomach till you get medical help, or you can get yourself sick, just throw up. But once the valve opens up, that pyloric valve opens up and the alcohol rushes through your stomach and into your small intestines, you're getting the full brunt of whatever you've consumed. And we're going to talk about what would you do if you went to a party and you had a friend that drank too much and they're passed out on the couch. What should I do? How much harm is this going to do to their body? Is there any way that I can help out my friend? And there is. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But you've got to realize that alcohol is a poison. Your body does not want it. It does not need it. So when you drink in excess, this is why people throw up, is because your body is saying, get out of my system. I do not want you in this body any longer. So you're going to purge the alcohol. Now, when you drink too much, sometimes your body, that mechanism doesn't work. And this is where people can actually drink themselves to death. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Once it gets to the bloodstream, it goes through all parts of your body, brain, heart, and liver. Your liver, and this is a big paragraph, and the only thing I want you to write down here, what I want you to remember just for driver's ed, is that if you consume 1 serving of alcohol, so we're talking 1 serving of alcohol would be 1 can of beer, which is 12 ounces, 6 or 5 ounces of wine, depending on the percentage of alcohol that's found in the wine, and basically a shot of hard liquor. So a shot of liquor, a glass of wine, a can of beer, all have the same amount of alcohol. If you consume alcohol, you should always try to give yourself 1 hour per serving. So if you sit down to drink and you have 4 drinks in 1 hour, 1 hour is already has passed while you were drinking, you should probably wait another 3 hours. So if you've ever been where people have had 6, 10, 12, and they stop drinking at 12 midnight, they're not going to have alcohol out of their system till noon the next day. So even though you were to go home and sleep, or sleep wherever you were, and wake up in the morning at 6 or 7 and drive home, you roll through a stop sign, the police pull you over. And I said before, you don't smell alcohol in your system, but the police officer will. He's going to say, have you been drinking? You're thinking, no, I just woke up. You're not thinking that you were drinking the night before. He says, well, I smell alcohol. And do you know that you just ran through that stop sign? Can you get out of your vehicle for me, please? Now, all of a sudden, you're going to have a field sobriety test, and we're going to take a look at what happens tomorrow in a field sobriety test. So I want you to remember, 1 drink, 1 hour. This is why it's smart not to be driving home, why you want a designated driver once you become of legal age. Now, I also want you to write this down. This is going to probably be for my final, that your brain is your function center. This is where all your decisions are being made. Once you introduce alcohol into your system, within 20 to 40 minutes, the alcohol has passed through the stomach, small intestines, through the bloodstream, throughout your body, and now your brain is starting to be sedated, depending on how much you've had to drink. Regardless if you think that you're able to drive, you have alcohol in your system. It is no different than taking aspirin. It's no different than taking prescribed medicine for allergy, for anything. The reason why you're taking something is to introduce it into your body to change your blood chemistry so you will not be affected by allergies, by a headache. What alcohol wants to do is to make you tired, to make you sluggish, to make you think slower, to react slower. That is not a benefit to driving. That is a hinder to being a good driver. And this is where problems start to rise with young people, because you think that you're so quick, good reflexes, good eyes, that even though I've had 2 or 3 drinks with my friends, I'm only 18, it's no big deal, it's graduation in 2 weeks, I still can drive around town going from party to party. No, you can't. You're underage. It is affecting the way that you think and the way you see things and the way that you're driving. Let's take a look at one other thing about the truth about alcohol.
Vodka,
tequila,
scotch,
beer,
wine,
rum,
gin, whiskey,
alcohol.
Alcohol probably took 20 years of my life, and you can't get that back.
Alcohol is a drug, which most people don't think it is, but it actually is. It's classed as a depressant, meaning it slows down vital functions in the body.
Alcohol is made through the fermentation of fruits and grains.
The process of fermentation is basically letting fruit sit and rot until it can produce a mind-altering effect when you drink it.
There's different types of things you can drink that have different amounts of alcohol in them. Like a beer, if you just drink beer, that has 2 to 6% alcohol. Wine is about 8 to 20% alcohol. And then you got your hard liquors, which are like vodka or whiskey, which are about 40 to 50% alcohol.
When someone drinks 2 or more drinks, it acts as a stimulant. When they drink more than that, it acts as a depressant.
If you binge drink, what you're doing is you're just drinking repeatedly over and over large amounts and large quantities of alcohol. If you put that much alcohol in your system at one time, you can get alcohol poisoning, which could lead you to go into a coma or even kill you.
12 years old. I was in the 7th grade.
When I was in 8th grade, I think I was 13 years old.
It became very regular at 14 years of age.
15 years old when I first started drinking.
17 years old, starting going out to parties, doing things like that.
At first, drinking was a sociable thing, you know. I drank with my friends.
Thought I was really cool going out with all the older guys, and I'd try to show off in front of them and drink myself stupid. I just go out and party all night.
By the time I was probably 15 is where I started drinking at school. Putting it in a water bottle, I would take vodka or gin, something clear that looked like water, and I would just drink in class and pop mints in my mouth.
We'd go in, break into his parents' liquor cabinet, fill up our super big gulps full of ice and Everclear, and then stop by 7-Eleven and fill the rest of it up with Coke, and then make it to first period.
I was drinking not just at parties and stuff, but after classes and after work, and even at work.
I waited tables, so it was very easy access to alcohol.
It was just hard to say no. It was so readily available, and it was constantly there.
My drug problem wasn't something that happened immediately. It happened so slowly that I missed the fact that I was addicted to it.
It became routine, a way of life.
The only type of people I would hang out with were people who were using drugs or drinking alcohol. And it got to the point where that's all I cared about.
It became far more than just a partying thing. It was a necessity.
Without having alcohol in me, I could not function.
I kind of became a loner because all I ever wanted to do was just drink and drink and drink.
It felt like it was my only friend. Felt like that it was always there for me somewhere. You know, when things were going bad, I could always have a few drinks. Well, for me, it was never a few drinks. It was always a lot of drinks.
I was consuming about 30 beers a day, a whole case of beer, and 3/4 of a gallon of light rum. I would essentially have that and black out every night.
I could do nothing but drink 24/7, drink, pass out, drink, pass out.
I literally started drinking so much that I would shake if I didn't have a drink.
When I would not drink, I'd get extremely sick. Deathly sick.
Just really achy all over, and you have headaches, and you're so dehydrated that you have no energy.
Alcohol had been, in and out my body so much that it had tore away some of the lining of my esophagus, and blood was creeping in.
I was a physical disaster. I was that far in my addiction of physical withdrawal that when I shut that alcohol intake off, my body tried to shut down.
The actual withdrawal from alcohol can kill you, for one thing, if it's too intense. Your body has no vitamins, or it's dehydrated, and you can have DTs, you can seizure to death. It's terrible.
I got a phone call, that my father was in the hospital and that he was really, really sick, and that he wasn't going to make it. So the next day I got on a plane to go home, and my only way to confront this was to drink alcohol. So I showed up at the airport pretty drunk, and my family, saw me there, and, they didn't know what to say. The worst thing about it is that my father was kept conscious so that he could see me before he passed away. But instead of disgracing his memory, they'd put him on life support.
I had gotten kicked out of this bar for fighting. I was beyond drunk, and I was attacked and raped. And I went home, and I stayed in my apartment for a week. My mom would come knocking on the door. I'd pretend I wasn't home. I felt like it was my fault. I was the one that was at that bar. I was the one that was getting drunk.
I went home, and I had a roommate. And for some reason, we got into an argument, which resulted in a fight, and the cops got called. I blacked out for part of it, so I couldn't figure out why I was waking up in jail.
I drank some beer there at the bar inside the airport. I just ordered another beer and put my backpack on and started walking through the terminal smoking a cigarette. I didn't care what I was supposed to be doing, and I ended up getting a fight with the police there at the airport, and I woke up in jail. I had staples in my head.
In the military, I woke up and I actually had to crawl on my hands and knees off the flight deck of the carrier because I couldn't walk, and then I got discharged from that and lost a girlfriend and a kid and my whole life.
I drank to blackout one night. Well, sometime about an hour later, I got back up. I went to my bedroom. My wife wasn't there. I went to the girls' bedroom, and they were all in the bed together, basically hiding from me through a blackout. And I decided right then that I couldn't stay there anymore. I was afraid I was going to hurt someone in a blackout.
I haven't had a drink in 3 years. Yet I'm reminded daily of my alcohol abuse because of the long-term effects. I have horrible short-term memory, and it makes everyday life very difficult for me. Just remembering names, remembering how to do things.
As a result of alcohol, I had high blood pressure, and I still have it.
It destroys your internal organs, and it can destroy your brain functions, your handwriting, small motor skills. It's definitely a poison.
I have liver pains, bone and muscle aches that just used to not be there, and it's not from age. I'm not that old. I should be in my prime right now, and I've probably aged myself 20 years through alcohol abuse.
Alcohol is slow to kill, but it's the most hideous form of death. If I had known how sneaky and dangerous and insidious alcohol is, if somebody had kind of told me, and if I had known that it's not this symbol for a good time, I think that would have made a difference.
It's not like some of the other drugs that instantly after your first time you're hooked and you're addicted to it. A lot of times, most of my friends didn't even like the taste of beer when they first started drinking.
It started out as something that was fun, something we did on weekends. How it progressed to an everyday, all-day thing is beyond me. I have no answer to that. I do not understand how that happened, but it did.
It's nothing but misery. The last 12, 13 years of my life, I've spent probably over $500,000, and over 4 or 5 years of that has been institutionalized, whether it be in a alcohol treatment rehab facility or, incarcerated.
Alcohol is just as bad, if not worse, than heroin or barbiturates or anything else. I don't know, if 60% of people go out to drink and get drunk, chances are that they're going to lead to something else, and they're going to end up on a downward spiral.
I may not be very old, but I have definitely seen some hellish things from alcohol. To be honest, I didn't think someone could get to the point that I was at my age. I thought that took years and years, but no, downward spiral.
It might seem fun at the beginning, but after you get stuck in that lifestyle for years, you realize how not fun it is. It's terrifying.
So there you have it, the truth about drinking and alcohol. Some stories from people that have experimented with alcohol and have come through the hell and high water of dealing with all the negative aspects of it, of addiction, and telling you basically it's not worth it. And I thought it was kind of interesting near the end. The one guy says it started out as something just so simple, so innocent, so just having fun. I don't know how it progressed to be so bad. And that's the tricky thing about alcohol and drugs, is that once it gets a hold of you and you think that you're controlling it, it's only a matter of time before it controls you. You no longer have any control over it. The thing I want you to remember from this slide right here is that depending on your age, your sex, males tend to burn up alcohol, oxidize, absorb it a little bit more efficiently than females because of the water percentages difference between males and females. Your nationality will have something to do with addiction. How old you are, your body is still growing and maturing, so you're not able to drink like someone that's in their 30s or 40s, so you're going to be affected at a young age. I used to work for the state of New Hampshire in their Bureau of Substance Abuse Services, and part of my job was to go around the state, and there's an alcohol education course that you have to take if you've been convicted of drinking and driving. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But part of it is doing some type of counseling, and AA is a form of counseling. And I've had, I say privilege because I'm not a, heavy drinker. I mean, I've tried alcohol before, but to see the people that have now found a way out of addiction, it's really amazing. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard stories like we just saw where people have said, it got a hold of me and I just don't want any part of that life anymore. And they've changed their life. And it's very encouraging. And they tell about a lot of these things that we're talking about tonight. And that's really what education's all about, is learning how not to make mistakes. And if you can learn from something like this, hopefully a topic like this being discussed, seeing a video or talking to other people, that it will, it will save you a lot of heartache and a lot of problems later in life. So what I want you to write down here is that most of your alcohol is broken down in your liver. And as we said earlier, 1 drink, 1 hour is a good way to look at it. But also remember, your breath, perspiration, and urination is another way that we can get rid of alcohol. Don't have to write anything down here, but I just wanted to throw this up here because a lot of people think, well, I just drank, takes an hour for the alcohol to get out of my system, so I had 3 drinks, 3 hours. Okay, after 3 hours, I'm good to go. My body is back to being perfect, and I'm fine. That's true, but the more frequent that you do drugs and to do alcohol, there's a small degradation. It degrades your body systems. And I just wanted to show you here, all these things that are up here will be affected by alcohol over the long term. So we're talking years, where, these things will be affected. I'll tell you a quick story. I met a person who had a real serious drinking problem, and they almost died. And the reason why they almost died is that they had a bleeding ulcer, and that's an open wound on their esophagus. So every time that they would drink, it would open up this sore in their throat, and blood would be leaking into their stomach and into their lungs and stuff like that. And it was a real major, major problem, but it was all caused by drinking. So all these things will be affected by alcohol. I want to show you one other thing about the brain. Like I said, the brain is so important. So I wanted to kind of show you this.
It may be legal, but it is still a drug. Be safe, be sensible, know your limit. Alcohol is a drug too. Think before you drink. Your body belongs to you. The purpose of this presentation is to help you understand the impact that alcohol has on your brain and the damage it can do. Our goal is to provide you with information which will enable you to make informed choices in relation to safe alcohol consumption. Did you know? Healthy people metabolize alcohol at a fairly consistent rate. As a rule of thumb, a person will eliminate 1 standard drink or 10 mils of alcohol per hour. And remember, it's not how many drinks you have, but how much alcohol you consume. Several factors influence this rate, including gender, age, height, weight, general health, the presence of food in the stomach, the concentration of alcohol in the drink, and prescription or illicit drugs taken by the person. It's the blood alcohol concentration, or BAC, which is the key to why we are affected by alcohol. Basically, your blood alcohol concentration is the relationship between the total amount of alcohol in your system divided by total body water, because alcohol is dissolved and diluted in water. So that's also why drinking lots of water with any alcohol consumption is a really good thing. The BAC and the effects of alcohol go up when the body is taking in alcohol faster than it can metabolize it. For example, if you binge drink and consume a 750ml bottle of rum or 3 bottles of wine, that's around 26 standard drinks, between 6 p.m. and 2 a.m, your body will need until sometime around 6 p.m. the next day to process and get rid of the alcohol. And that's why driving or operating equipment the next day is not only illegal, but just crazy, particularly when you consider what this is doing to your brain. Let me explain. Alcohol enters the body and ends up in the stomach, at which point about 20% is absorbed immediately, and the other 80% is absorbed in the small intestine. The heart then pumps the absorbed alcohol to every part of the body, including the central nervous system, which consists of the brain and spinal cord, and it gets to the brain really fast. So that's why even after just 1 drink, you can feel lightheaded or relaxed. Alcohol acts primarily on the nerve cells within the brain and interferes with communication between nerve cells and all other cells, slowing everything down. And that's why when we drink even a little, we experience the effects of alcohol on our emotions, judgment, balance, memory, speech, and anger levels, just to name a few. Did you know that your brain is still developing until you're around 20 to 25? So we need to be really careful because alcohol can do some irreversible damage to various parts of our brains. For example, drinking affects the cerebral cortex, which controls our senses, and inhibitory centers, which is why when you drink, you become more talkative, more self-confident, and less socially inhibited. It also controls our thought processes, so alcohol affects our ability to make good judgment or think clearly. The brain's frontal lobes are important for planning, forming ideas, making decisions, and using self-control. So when alcohol affects the frontal lobes of the brain, you may find it hard to control emotions and urges, and you may act without thinking, and even sometimes become violent or act completely out of character. Does this sound familiar? The cerebellum is important for coordination, thinking, and being aware. So again, you may have trouble with these skills when alcohol affects the cerebellum. That's why people affected by alcohol sometimes can't walk properly or lose their balance and fall. The hippocampus is the part of the brain where memories are made. So when alcohol reaches the hippocampus, you may have trouble remembering something you just heard, or even worse, have a blackout and not be able to remember what you did last night. If alcohol damages the hippocampus, you may find it hard to learn or remember things in the future. The hypothalamus is a small part of the brain that does an amazing number of the body's housekeeping chores. After a person drinks alcohol, blood pressure, hunger, thirst, and the urge to urinate increases, while body temperature and heart rate decreases. And finally, the medulla controls the body's automatic actions, such as your heartbeat. It also keeps the body at the right temperature. Because alcohol chills the body, drinking a lot of alcohol outdoors in cold weather can cause a person's body temperature to fall below normal. This dangerous condition is called hypothermia. Your body belongs to you. Get the facts. Alcohol is unsafe for the developing brain. Alcohol can damage your brain forever. The long-term functioning and health of your brain depends on the choices you make today. Your responsible attitude toward alcohol can have a positive influence on your friends and family. Your body belongs to you. Take care of it. It's the only one you have.
So that gives you an idea of how the brain is so vital in your functioning, and how alcohol will really damage the process of what you need to drive with. So let's kind of take a look at how that relates to maybe how many drinks will it take for me to get to that level where, you know, all these different aspects of the brain are starting to be affected. And what I want you to write down, BAC stands for blood alcohol concentration. In some states, you're going to see content. And what we're going to go over right now is what we're calling stages of influence. And these are the clinical signs and symptoms that we have found over a period of time of consuming alcohol. This is how your body's going to react. Now, I do not want you to write everything that is on these slides, but what I do want you to write down is I want you to write down BAC of 0.01 to 0.05, and just basically do the top line right here: sobriety and no apparent influence. So parents can actually go out to eat, drink 1 or 2 glasses of wine, go out bowling, have 2-3 drinks of alcohol over a course of bowling, and still get behind the wheel of the car and drive because they're over 21. Their BAC would probably fall within this range. Okay, a normal adult, male, female, certain weight, you're going to be at a 0.01, 0.05. All right, so you're good. No problems getting behind the wheel of the car. Now, if we gave them a breath test or a blood test, it would show alcohol in the system, but very, very slight amount, the amounts that we have right here. Now, the next thing I want you to write down, this is where we're going to start having problems. 0.03 to 0.12. Part of what you're going to need to know for tomorrow, and when we talk about penalties tomorrow, every single state has a legal limit of 0.08. Now, when everybody hears a legal limit, they think, oh, I can drink up to 0.08. That's not the case. This is what I want you to understand. What 0.08 means is that if you are above that number, the state doesn't need really much of anything else dealing with your driving to get a conviction for drinking and driving. You blow a 0.09, you were driving fine, you didn't run a stop sign, you weren't speeding. The reason they pulled you over is you forgot to get your car inspected. But when he talked to you about getting your car inspected, he realized that there was some odor on your breath. He asked you if you've been drinking, and you said, yeah, I'd gone out with some friends. Now he's going to pull you out of the car, do a field sobriety test, and then take you to the station. If you blow a 0.09, now you've got a chance of being convicted of drinking and driving. So a lot of people think, well, I can drink at a 0.05, a 0.06. Well, if you ran a stop sign, if your driving is pretty bad, they're going to take all the evidence and put it together, and you still could get convicted of drinking and driving at below a 0.08 if your driving is really bad. You just don't want to be driving bad to call attention to what's going on. So 0.03 to 0.12 is what we call euphoria. This is like a slight buzz that you may be getting. You can feel the effects of alcohol. You're kind of lightheaded. So you're very sociable, talkative, increase self-confidence. And a lot of people say that they drink in a social setting because they want to kind of loosen up. They want to kind of feel more relaxed. They don't want to feel so tense and nervous. A couple drinks will probably get people to this point. All right. Now, the next one is where we're really going to see people. And part of what I want you to do for a homework assignment tonight is like we did with road rage, finding articles. I want you to find an article dealing with drunk driving, and we're going to find out what was the BAC level of the person that was driving and what type of driving behavior took place. Did they run a stop sign, traffic light? Did they hit a person? Did they kill a person? Did they injure a person? So tonight, part of your homework is to find an article of a drunk driving story, and there has to have a BAC level. We want to draw in the relationship between BAC level and how you're driving and what happened when you're driving. So at a 0.09, 0.25 is what we call excitement. This is decreased inhibitions, loss of critical judgment. You have impaired memory. You don't have a very good sensory response, and there's muscular incoordination. Now I'm going to bump out of here for a second so you can see something. If you ever want to find out what this level looks like, a 0.09 to a 0.25, this is what I want you to do. I'm going to take my headphones out. Now, I'm not going to do this but once, so just watch. If you want to see what someone would look like at a 0.09, 0.25, have them put their arms out. Have them spin around about 10 times as fast as they can, and then have them try to walk a straight line. So spin around with your arms out 10 times as fast as you can go. Stop and tell the person, try to walk a straight line. That is what a person at a 0.09, 0.25 would look like. You'll see one of these things. They're going to be tipping. They're going to be leaning. We'll see a field sobriety test tomorrow. I found a police cam of someone that was arrested for drinking and driving, and you'll see their body, the way that they were trying to walk, and you can tell that their BAC level is probably close to a 0.25. Actually, who was driving today? I was driving with someone today, and we saw someone leaning, and we both said, there's a person that's probably under the influence of a drug or alcohol, because it was bad. It was bad. I'm trying to think. Could have been Lyra. Could have been Lyra that was driving at the time. Disorientation, dizziness, exaggerated emotional states, altered sense of perception, decreased sense of pain, impaired balance, staggered gait, confusion. This is the college student that falls down the steps, breaks his legs, and breaks a leg and doesn't know about it till the next day. Doesn't feel any pain that night because he's so liquored up that the alcohol numbs the pain. This is the person that can't find his car keys, doesn't know where he parked the car. This is the person that is probably sitting on the couch and crying uncontrollably, and you try to calm them down and you say, what is wrong? Why are you crying? And their response is, someone turned on the lights, and they're crying because someone turned the lights on. And you're thinking, why are you crying about that? Makes no rhyme or reason why they're doing it, but they're drunk to this level. Now, this is what I want you to write down at 0.27, 0.40 is when it says general inertia, that means there's no movement. Approaching paralysis, meaning that you cannot move. You're sitting in a couch or sitting on a couch, and you can't move your arms, you can't move your legs, you can't get up, you're in a dead stare. This is what I want you to write down. If you can see that someone can't stand up and they can't respond to you, this is what I want you to do. I want you to call 911. But Mr. Toll, I'm going to get in trouble. We're at a party. I'm underage. I've got friends that are here. Yeah. But you've got a person here at a BAC level of 0.27, 0.40. If he doesn't get medical help, there's a chance that he could go into, or he or she could go into a coma or die. Do you want that to happen? You've got to remember, when everybody is drinking and doing something that's illegal, that is a bad decision on everybody's part. When someone is injured or is killed because of doing something illegal, everybody is going to be sued. Everybody is going to go to the police station. You're making another bad decision by not calling 911. There's a case, and I'm going to try to find it. I don't have it in this file. I'll have to dig it up. There was and it happens every year, but this case was 2 years ago. Penn State fraternity, freshman drinking to excess, passed out at the bottom of the steps. Everybody was walking over him, kind of laughing, having a good time. They did not realize that he had consumed too much alcohol. He needed medical help. He later died that night. No one knew about it till the next morning. And then the people in the fraternity didn't know what to do, and they tried to cover it up. Everybody in that fraternity was being sued. The school was being sued. Now, did the college freshman have some responsibility because he was there, he was drinking? Absolutely. But who gave him the alcohol? Who didn't call 911? Who tried to cover it up? I am telling you that you think you're having a good time at a party, it can go south very quickly. Very quickly. So if you see any of these responses when you're at a party, call. Get help. They need it. So the next slide, like I told you, coma. That's the next stage. They go into coma. And the reason why I put down less than 15%, so write down 0.35 to 0.50 BAC, you are probably going into a coma. Everything that we just saw before and more is here. The person looks pale, looks kind of bluish, very cold to the touch, may have urinated or messed himself. And what it says here, less than 15%, what that means is less than 15% of the population can drink to this level and live through it. Less than 15%. Remember, I told you at the beginning of tonight, your body does not like alcohol. It's a poison. It does not want it. When it gets excessive amounts of alcohol, your body will make you sick. This is why people throw. This is why you have a hangover. You don't get a hangover if you drink, a liter of Pepsi. You don't get a hangover if you drink orange juice, unless you put vodka in it. There are some things your body just can't handle. And then death. Then death. Now, part of your article, and I wanted to show you what I was looking for. Part of your article, here is a woman that had the highest BAC level, and she still lived. If you take a look at the second paragraph, halfway down, it says, the woman was passed out behind the wheel of the vehicle with an astounding 0.70% blood alcohol level. What? She should have been dead. She is part of that 15% that can drink to extremely high levels and still live. It's unbelievable that she was alive. Now, I don't think she was driving. I think she probably got to a point, stopped driving, and she continued to drink. There's no way she's going to get behind the wheel and move it at that level. Now, you would think she's probably learned her mistake. After spending some time in jail and being brought up on charges, she'll probably never do that again. We learn from our mistakes, don't we? If we look down at the bottom paragraph, it says, after being taken into custody, Marguerite was taken to a nearby medical facility in Sturgis and was later released on bail. However, the story of misadventure of the woman did not end here, as she was discovered drunk in the vehicle again early this week. She is now being held without bail after the judge slammed her with charges of 2 counts of driving under the influence of alcohol. At the same time, the South Dakota woman who had earlier missed her court hearing can also face theft charges because she stole a vehicle. A week later from being arrested, she's doing it again. So besides doing the article of the BAC level that's high, what I want you to do is I want you to give me a 1-page report. A 1-page, at least a couple paragraphs. How do we stop people from drinking and driving? I want you to be very thoughtful, and I want you to think about time in jail, time loss of license, what a penalty for fine would be. Think about education. Do they have to take classes? Do they have to do counseling? Do they have to talk to people that have been involved or family members that have lost people? We call that a victim panel. I want you to give me an idea. What do you think we should do with people that continue to drink and drive? Because remember, laws are made by the general population. The laws that were on the books when I first started teaching driver's ed are not the laws that we have now. They're constantly changing. And we have to take a look at what we have, because apparently what we have isn't working. Here's another article that I thought you would find. And I think a lot of people think that when I tell stories in driver's ed, I'm making this stuff up. I'm not. Everything that I tell you has come from articles that I've either seen on TV, the internet, or newspaper. Look at this one. A drunken driver hit a phone pole support wire, decapitating his passenger. His passenger must have had his head stuck out the window. Maybe he was getting sick. He then drove 12 miles to his home, slept in his bloody clothes, leaving the headless body in his truck. Police in Marietta, Georgia said. A neighbor discovered Daniel Brahm's headless corpse in the truck in John Hutchinson's driveway and called authorities. Officers found Hutchinson asleep in his home. They later found Brahm's head near the pole. Hutchinson, 21, just legal. Now, he's 21. Do you think that's his first time drinking? If he's drinking and driving that badly, do you think it's his first time? Probably not. He was charged with vehicular homicide, driving under the influence. And look at that, 17 years ago. You will be surprised what you find when you do a search. We talked about addiction. I'm not going to show you that. I do want to show you this. Part of about the penalties. This is one of the older films that I've shown. I believe this is probably going on 20 years, I think. About 20 years old. But it really rings home to me. We see articles where people are injured or they die and we feel really bad about it. But when we talk to people or when we see the pain and suffering, it has a more lasting effect. And I hope this story has a more lasting effect on you. And maybe will help you kind of figure about what the penalty should be for somebody. Because I think the person that was arrested because he was a high school senior should have been more. I thought he should have spent more time in jail. His fine should have been more. And by the way, the victim, she did live, and you're going to see her story. But I have found out since then, she contracted cancer, and she died, I think, about 8 years ago. And when you see the pain and suffering that she went through, she's definitely in a better place. I think if you were to ask her after the crash, I think she would have said, "I wish I would have died." After you see this story, you'll see why I think that she wishes that she never made it. She should have passed away in the crash and never had to deal with the pain. It's one of the saddest stories I have come across dealing with drinking.
Some roads take us home. Some roads take us places we've never been. Some roads and some choices take us places we would never want to go. One September night in 1999, a high school senior named Reggie Steffi took this 4-lane road to get home.
In high school, I was the all-American guy. Worked hard and had some hopes and dreams to keep going on the college level. But my senior year, after the 3rd football game of the season, I was out at a party one night.
I had a few beers. I was not falling down drunk and weaving all over the place. But it was more than enough to impair me.
It was enough to cause Reggie to cross head-on into an oncoming lane of traffic. His SUV struck a car with 5 people inside. 2 people in the car died instantly. 2 suffered broken bones, and another person was trapped inside when the car caught fire. Other than a few bruises, Reggie wasn't hurt, but a blood test showed he had been drinking. He was tried and convicted for causing the deaths of 2 young women while he was driving drunk.
I'm 23 years old now, and I've been in prison for 3.5 years. There were a lot of life lessons that you learn, and in prison you tend to learn them a little bit quicker, just valuing freedom. You don't have a telephone to call your mom or call your best friend. You don't have email to go back and forth and communicate instantly. When you don't have those things, you realize how important a lot of things are to your life and how much you take them for granted. And when they're gone, they're gone.
Jacqueline Sabarito lost a lot that September night, too. She had come to Texas from her native Venezuela to improve her English. She was a passenger in the car that Reggie hit and was trapped in the burning wreckage. Somehow, she survived. Jackie lost her ears, her face, her hands, and her independence. She's had more than 50 operations. There are many more to come.
Sometimes the hardest thing for me to do in my life is fight with the depression, fight when I go out, and sometimes people look at me like an alien or something like that.
The crash totally changed Jackie's life. She fights pain every day. People point at her and stare. Her plans for college and a career are on hold. And inside a Texas prison, Reggie Steffi faces a life he never expected.
I hear a lot from my friends and what they're doing and where they've been and what's happening to them at college, and part of me misses that, misses what they're doing. My best friend just got married a few weeks ago, and seeing the pictures and seeing him and his bride and seeing everything that's changing and everybody else moving forward, and here I'm just kind of spinning my wheels in the same place, doing the same things every day, and everybody else is moving forward. It's a hard thing to deal with sometimes. You see everybody and everything changing around you, and there's really nothing you can do to stop it or to move along with them.
My second life, I could say, is completely different, completely. Of the 24 hours of the day, probably, I can say 1 or 2 hours. I'm pretty sad about my appearance, because I can say in those 2 hours, things that I couldn't do it with my hands, or when I get so warm inside my body because I can't sweat, or when I see on the mirror, I get so sad.
I can't change it. I can't make it go away. And it's not something that I want to forget about. It's not something that I will ever forget about. Some people would want to and some people would try, but it's something that I live with every day. If you think ahead to what you're going to be doing, you can make the right decision. But once you've been out there drinking and partying, it does impair your judgment, and you may think differently, and you may think you're all right when you're really not, like I did. Looking back on September 19th, 1999, there are a number of things that I could have done to prevent this. The easiest is to not drink. Had I planned ahead and had someone sober with me, I wouldn't be in this situation. I could have called a cab and forked over $30 for a cab ride home and not been in this situation. I could have called my mom or my uncle and woke them up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I wouldn't have been in this situation. 2 people would be alive, and Jacqueline would be about her life. And the easiest way to prevent that is decide who's driving tonight before you go to the party.
Reggie Steffi has been turned down for parole. He is scheduled to be released from prison in 2008 after spending 2,555 days behind bars. Jackie will spend the rest of her life recovering from injuries. She continues to speak out against the dangers of drinking and driving.
Okay, Reggie only spent 7 years in jail, a $20,000 fine. So do you really think that is enough? I mean, all the damage that he did. I think one of the more telling stories, and we're going to talk about this next week, but Jackie has $5 million worth of medical bills. And the question is, who's going to pay for that? Because a high school kid hit her. He doesn't have that kind of money. You know, maybe his parents might have some, but I don't think they're going to have $5 million. So what you need to realize is that it's your body. They're doing the surgery to you. So it's your bill to pay. So Jackie, and I told you she's passed away, but her estate, you know, that's what they had to pay. Now, I'm sure there's going to be some victims fund, panel money, other ways that she can collect, but $5 million is a lot of money. And we'll talk about how insurance is supposed to be picking up that amount, or at least a good portion of that, making sure that we have enough insurance on our policy to cover bad crashes like that. The other thing that they talked about a lot, and I'm not going to show this one, I may save this for tomorrow, but let's just speak a little bit about designated driver. I like the concept of it. I like that there's a person that is not going to be drinking. But I think I want you to write down your notes. In this day and age, there is no reason why anybody should be behind the wheel after they've been drinking because of Uber and because of Lyft. I don't think there is an area around where you cannot go to the app and find somebody to give you a lift or to come out with an Uber. Now, the other question is having the money, maybe, and this is where, you know, pitching in and, you know, helping your friends out. What are some of the other options that probably would help solve a problem? Well, one would be just don't drink. Stay there at the facility. Call a friend to come out, get you. Maybe you can't get an Uber or a Lyft. Do you have a friend that's still up and it's somewhat in the area? Let them come out and get you. No one wants to call a parent, but I'm sure your parents would much rather be picking you up at a party than picking you up at a police station. And I know you're going to find this hard to believe, but before I was married, and I was teaching driver's ed, I started teaching when I was 23, 24 years old, and talking about alcohol as I do in every class, I said, I do not want anybody to get behind the wheel of the car. If your boyfriend or girlfriend ever, you know, has been drinking and you don't feel comfortable getting the wheel, you know, call. I'll come get you. And I actually had one student, in all the years I've been teaching, I had one student call. And I had to go pick him up and I brought him home. I says, but I want your parents to know that you didn't come home with, you know, the person that brought you to the party. I'm not going to talk to your parents, but we got you home. But, you know, let your parents know who you're hanging out with. Whether it happened or not, I don't know. But so what I want you to do, I want you to do that article. I want you to go online and find something. I'll put it on Facebook too, but let me just put it up here first. I'm going to type it in. So one of the things I want you to do is an article on DWI with a BAC level. Okay, we're going to find out what actually happened. And the other thing that I want you to do is to, let me do, just trying to type it out. All right, penalties. Change what you think would be appropriate penalties for drinking and driving. So there is your homework for tonight. And I'll also post it up on Facebook. So what we're going to do is we're going to finish up tomorrow dealing with drugs and how it affects the body and mind. We'll talk about transporting alcohol, having an open container, what's the first offense, second offense of drinking and driving. We'll talk about an SR22 insurance requirement if you get arrested for drinking and driving. And we'll probably get into driving emergencies. So go back to the sheet that I gave you when it says driving emergencies. I want you to do chapter 15. So do chapter 15 and 13, the questions at the end of responsible driving, those sections. And to make sure that you read in the manual section 10 for driving emergencies and section 3 for alcohol. So we're going to finish up alcohol in the first half of tomorrow, and the last half we'll start getting into to driving emergencies. The very, very last part. It'll probably leak into Thursday's class with car crashes and insurance. Like I said, I only got 5 o'clock open for tomorrow, so if someone wants to drive, make sure that you've texted me a little bit later tonight so I can look through it. I think that is it for tonight. If you've got any free periods tomorrow, let me know. I'll try to squeeze you in. I see someone had texted earlier about driving early. So we'll see what happens with that. So if you got any questions, just text me, and I'll try to get back to you the best I can. We'll finish up this stuff tomorrow, and I'll try to give you some more drive times. I'm not quite sure what Thursday looks like. Let me take a look at my phone right now. I'm getting text messages from other people too now. Yeah, Thursday I've got some openings too. So that's going to be much better. All right, so that's it for tonight. Let me get out of here. So here's your homework. Article on DWI with a BAC level. Tell me what changes you think would be appropriate to the penalties that we have in the state. So that is it for tonight. And we'll see you tomorrow. So have a good one. And we're on the home stretch. Have a good night.